Hello Shane, this is going to be your video on how to operate your lightsaber and general information you're going to want to know about using it. So, it's going to come in the box that you sent me. Here's the hilt. And then you also have the battery, your tools, extra set screws, and then this is an extra little circle. I'll show you what that's for. This is extra, you don't need to use it, and most likely you never will. I just printed you another one just in case. So I'll show you how that one is going to be used. Here's the hilt. There you go. The Obi 3.5. Pretty neat weathering. I think it's pretty cool. I stopped the rattle on here like you wanted me to. I put a little bit of E6000 on it so now it doesn't shake or move or anything. You can still press the buttons perfectly fine, as you can hear. And then you've got your blade plug, the main set screw, and then you have all of your additional set screws. You're going to want to put the rest of the set screws in here. I just haven't for now because I don't really need to, because for my purposes I'm just showing you how it all works. But for you to swing it around and such, you're going to want to put the extra set screws in these little holes here. So I'll show you what the circle's about. This is how you're going to access your chassis. You just unscrew the bottom section. The way you're going to access it easiest is unscrewing both the pommel and the booster section at the same time. Then here's the chassis. This chassis, as you know, I had to design and print myself since the one that I purchased before didn't work at all. And that was because the, here, if it could focus, there we go. That's because the soundboard couldn't sit here without the edges lifting up and preventing it from sliding in. And it also didn't have enough pathway, geez, this needs to focus, there we go. Pathway for the micro USB port. So I had to design it like that, make sure it all works. So, as you can see, we've got the little prongs that connect to the buttons, got the NeoPixel connector, you've got the soundboard, you've got the 28mm bass speaker, which I managed to fit on here. The previous one had a 22, so 28 is much, much bigger and sounds the best you can make it. So I'm glad I could put that on for you. Now, the little circle goes inside of the pommel here, because I wanted to make sure that the chassis was perfectly set in place every time and didn't shift backwards or forwards. So if you look in there, you have the little circle. What that does is it presses on the outside of the speaker ring and just pushes the chassis inside of the hilt so it doesn't move back and forth. So if for some reason that ever comes off or you lose it somehow, I have another one for you in that plastic bag. Just a little bit of a closer look at it. There you go. So this you'll never have to mess with. In reality, you won't ever need to remove the pommel, because you just need to unscrew this section to access the chassis. Now you're never going to want to unscrew any of the next section because that's where the wires are going from the emitter NeoPixel to the blade side NeoPixel in here. Never unscrew any of this. Just leave it in place, because if you ever unscrew it, you have the potential of breaking the wires. So just don't do that and you'll be fine. Yeah, pretty neat connection system on the inside. Pretty fun. I've never used the 3-prong connector before, or this cool little spring connector thing. So all you need to do to operate the lightsaber is take your battery. I'm going to take one I have set aside here so I don't unwrap yours. Negative goes towards the speaker, positive goes towards the NeoPixel connector. Just snap it in place. I set up the font that you wanted me to set up, and I set up the blade profiles and styles in the way that you wanted, which is kind of chronologically through Obi-Wan's life. So in here is the SD card where you're going to access all of your customization stuff, all the fonts, all the configuration settings, all in the SD card. If you ever do need to access the RICE port or any kind of firmware updates, you can access it with the micro USB, you just pop the soundboard up very gently, like that. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want to mess up any of the connections there. So just be very gentle when dealing with the soundboard itself. If you don't think you're ever going to access the micro SD port or the micro USB, just put a tiny dab of Loctite on the side, but I wouldn't recommend doing that if you don't know what you're doing. So just leave it in place here and you'll be all set. You could even take a little bit of Captain tape or something to lock it down if it ever gets loose, but as it is right now, it stays in place perfectly fine. Just don't mess with it and you'll be good. Let me know if you want me to glue it down for you. That way it'll be super secure. But anyways, you put the battery in, as you could see, powers up. It has gesture control, so I set it up where you can do twist, but you can also go into the customization settings and do stab on, flick on, whatever you want. But I have twist on. You can see the NeoPixel connector right there, nice and glowy. There's no buttons on here, so you can't really control it outside of the lightsaber. And you can hear the volume on this thing, which is pretty impressive. So to put it inside the hilt, you just line up the three little connection points there. Put it with the button, with the clamp card. You just line it up like that, and you'll feel it. It'll just slide in perfectly. Then you put on the back end, screw it in place. And there you go, nice and tight. The top one is the power button, the bottom is the auxiliary. Got your blade plug on here, you can see the shine through there. So all the general controls are going to be in the description of the video. I have your quick activation, or quick general control guide down there. I also have all the information you need to customize your lightsaber in the description. Everything you need, like the manual, the firmware updates, the website where you can go for the different blade profiles, etc. So I have everything you need right there. So I'm just going to put the blade on, show you how this works real quick. From what I can remember, if I miss anything, again, it's always going to be in the description of the video. Okay, I just removed the blade plug here. It takes a 1-inch blade. You mentioned that you have a blade with 115 pixels in it, so that's what I programmed in the lightsaber. But if it turns out that that's not the correct amount, you can just go into the config file and then go to the appropriate setting parameter thing to change, because it's currently at 115. My blades here are 122, so when you put it in, you're going to want to push it all the way, make connection with the NeoPixels. I like to push it against something so I can push it down while I screw it in. And again, you're going to want to have the other set screws in there as well, so you'll have 5 total. I'm just using the one that was in here as it is, but you're going to want to put in all the other ones or else it'll be a bit wobbly and unstable. So for now, this works. As you can see, it doesn't go all the way to the tip because mine is 122 pixels and you said yours was 115. Now we've got the localized blaster blocks. Localized lockup depending on the angle. You have color change by pressing both auxiliary and activation at the same time, and then you can just rotate through your colors, and then you select it. I'll just go back to the normal one. You just select it by holding down the activation button.
Blade profiles.
Well, that's how you swap to your blade profiles, which is the different animations. So you've got all your different blade styles and animations. You can see a lot better in person than on camera, but I'll just leave it here. So just tap it to accept either of them. Hold down the button to switch between color selection and blade profile selection. I have 30 colors on here and 30 blade profiles, the animations, so you'll be all set there. To reset it, you just turn off the lightsaber completely, take the battery out, put it back in, and it resets the colors and blade profiles. So I'll start from the beginning. hold down the auxiliary.
Sound bank selection.
It goes into sound bank selection. Auxiliary goes forward 1. Activation goes backwards 1. If you want to hop forward 5, you press both at the same time.
SD system exit menu.
Meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So this is that first font you told me.
You were right about one thing, Master. The negotiations were short.
So you can see, the blade is pretty light. Not the lightest though. I found that with the earlier movies, it is darker than the original trilogy, but it's also not as dark as the show or as the sequel trilogy. And then, if you want to play music, you can just double tap the activation. Turn it off, you just double tap again. I want to show you tip drag real quick. I'm going to hold the blade in place so it doesn't come out, because again, I'm only using one retention screw. You're going to want to angle it down around 45 degrees, hold down the activation, and then clash. So you can see, you've got tip drag right here. Sorry, the blade turned off because, again, I don't have it in securely because of only one retention screw, which is why you're going to want to use use all of them. Let me show you that again. There you go, tip drag. And then each font has that. And then color change, localized effects, etc. All gesture controls. And then if you want to go forward by 1 for the font, you just hold down the activation while it's off and then you clash. If I can figure that out, hold on. This one's a little harder to do, which is why I like the blade or the font selection menu.
Master Kenobi, you disappoint me.
You're going to want to clash around here because that's where the board is. It's a little easier that way. So this is the next one. This is episode 2. Pretty much the same animation because all the animations are the same. But the color, I believe, is the same as the previous one. So all around, very, very similar.
General Kenobi.
This one should be Clone Wars, which I believe is slightly darker. So if you can tell, the color is a little bit darker. Then episode 3 should be the same as Clone Wars. And then next,
Kenobi.
This one is the TV show, which is much darker if you can tell.
It's just bad these days.
And this is again from the show, same darkness as the previous one. Personally, this is my favorite. I like the darker blues, it looks really nice. But of course the lighter blues are a bit brighter, so it's a little more fun.
Ben Kenobi?
And then this is episode 4, which is the lightest, which is pretty cool. It's almost a cyan color, but it's very, very light blue. Like an ice blue, almost. Looks really nice on camera. And I have the blade style different on that one, since the technology they used was vastly different. So it's more flickering, more full blade effect versus localized, which I thought was more accurate to the movie. Now I believe that should be about it. I don't have anything else you should keep in mind other than just don't unscrew that. When you plug in the soundboard, plug it in with the battery in it, which is different from Profi. Profi, you don't want the battery in when you plug in the board to the computer. It'll fry it, but with Crystal Focus, you need the battery in there in order to have power and in order for it all to work. So, but that's ever if you need to plug it into your computer for like firmware updates or something like that. But as it stands right now, I don't think you'll need to do that for a long time. Only if you want to and get into the customization, which I have all the supplies you need down in the description of the video. So I hope you liked the lightsaber. This was a bit tricky to work on because I had to design this whole thing because the previous one didn't work. But ultimately, I think it came out really, really well. And it's really fun to use. Hold on, there we go. Really fun to use. I enjoy this lightsaber quite a bit. And also remember the blade, 1 inch, use all the set screws which come in this bag. There you go. And then the extra ring I have for the pommel to keep everything in place even more securely. So I hope you like the lightsaber. I'll be shipping it out to you today. And let me just secure it all. We'll make sure it's all packaged nicely before sending it out. But yeah, hope you like the lightsaber. And may the Force be with you.